Hello, thank you for joining me. My name is Henk Nieboer. I'm the director of EcoShape, the foundation which is carrying out the public-private innovation program Building with Nature. 31st of March 2021, EcoShape organized a webinar to introduce its plans for the year 2021. The webinar was very well attended by over 100 participants. We recorded the session, but unfortunately the first 10 minutes of the webinar was lost due to technical reasons. Therefore, I give you this short introduction. The 10 minutes that were lost were basically myself explaining the program of the webinar and Marjolein van Wijngaarden, member of the supervisory board of EcoShape, explaining why the partners in the program Building with Nature decided to continue with this program. The program of this webinar is that I gave a short introduction at the beginning. That introduction you will not see, and then Marjolein van Wijngaarden explained about why to continue with the Building with Nature program. The first few minutes of her introduction were lost. So after this introduction by me, you will immediately join Marjolein at approximately three quarters of her presentation. After Marjolein, we will have 3 presentations explaining more specifically what we are going to do in the program in 2021. And the whole session is followed by a Q&A. So thanks again for joining us. I hope you will enjoy this webinar, and don't be surprised that you will see Marjolein more than halfway in a presentation after this. Thank you.
Actually, I'm quite proud that either if you look at it from a company perspective, a dredging perspective, or the engineering companies, or I think the perspectives from the knowledge institutes, the NGOs, and the authorities, that we all have some stake in this, and everyone thinks it's a positive development. So that's why I'm here asking you to join us and to keep on joining us for some of you in this third program or third network initiative, and to reach out to each other and not be, too happy about what we accomplished, because it's been a success. But if you look at your successes too long, they're old news. And we have to look into the future, because there's so much more, I think, to develop. So the third program is about, I think, stressing the international character of Building with Nature. So we have to develop more international concepts. We have to reach out to the world, share the knowledge. And from that on, I think we have to be more open as a network. And that's what this whole third, I think, program is about. That we look for new partners, for new initiatives, new concepts. So it's about, in a positive way, about expansion, I think. It's about the need to further develop. So that is why I'm so happy as I started off this small talk about seeing so much of you here, because that's actually what it's all about. It's about new people, new partners, new concepts, and show that it's really happening. So it's a call for action, and this hour, Henk and someone will tell you how this action. It's someone there. How do it work out for you? So please stay tuned. And again, I cannot stress more than to say that it's so good that we're still here. And I was thinking about. The new motto, you all know the saying, don't call us, we call you. And I think this EcoShape round is about call us if we don't call you, because it's about the initiative in the world to reach out to us. So I think that's more than enough for what I had to say to you. I had 10 minutes, but I said I can be short. I wish you a good hour, and well, I'm looking forward to see you somewhere in the next year or years live. That will be really, really nice. So thanks. Henk, back to you.
Yeah, thank you, Marjolein. Struggling with the unmute button. Well, we have about 100 participants at the moment, which is really great. But we also get some messages from people telling us that the maximum number of participants has been reached. So I was a little bit distracted by that because I'm not aware of any limit that we set. I will give you a short introduction on what the plans are for the coming time. And I will start sharing my screen. So, yeah, what can you expect from us in 2021? Again, I will take you back a little bit, just as Marjolein. Formally, the first program started in 2008 and it lasted until 2012. In the first program, yeah, we did quite a lot of fundamental research. We did some pilot projects, and then we published this nice little book, which you see in the upper right-hand corner, along with a lot of guidelines. But we also we also discovered that although we developed a lot of interesting knowledge and concepts, that nearly nobody was using it, and it was decided therefore we need a second phase where we will realize building with nature projects as a pilot, and where people can go to, they can experience it, they can see it, and based on what we see and monitor and measure at these pilots, we can develop new knowledge. So we built a totally different program centered around these pilot projects, and you see an overview of them at the bottom of my slide. And most of these pilots we completed in this time frame of 6 years. And what we learned, we compiled into guidelines and white papers and the book. White papers, you can find them on our website. Guidelines, you can find them on our website, and the book is available at the better bookshops and through the usual web shops. But then again, during the second phase, we realized, we noticed that there was an enormous groundswell worldwide, people and organizations asking for nature-based solutions, building with nature, etc. Not in the least at the large climate conferences where people discuss adaptation, where they discuss mitigation, and they expect that a lot of good can come from including nature in our designs. And so we see that the opportunity for building with nature, nature-based solutions is actually growing. And well, that is demonstrated by the large number of guidelines that are being produced at the moment, or last few years, by the World Bank, by UNDP, by the IUCN, the International Union of Conservation Networks. Large European programs have studied the concepts of nature-based solutions. And nature-based solutions is also at the center of the adaptation agenda, which the EU presented a few weeks ago. So the future for this type of work, for this kind of concepts, looks very bright. And what can we contribute to that? Well, for us as a network who have been engaged and with this concept and developing knowledge, yeah, we would like to realize real-world projects on a landscape scale, of course. And but we also see that there are still barriers to overcome that, and we want to create the enablers to realize this ambition. And these enablers, they are in the field of technology and system knowledge, and a lot of aspects we still don't know enough about. working in a multi-stakeholder approach, management, monitoring and maintenance practices are different for nature-based solutions and building with nature solutions than for traditional solutions. We need to work with institutes to see how we can fit this kind of concepts in our institutional landscape. So with the regional, local, national authorities, NGOs, the general public, all being influenced by this kind of solutions, all want to exert influence over them. So we need to study carefully how we can embed that in our institutional environment. The business case is of course important. What do the solutions bring us? What do they cost? And who is going to pay? And last but not least, we need to work on capacity building because we need a new generation of engineers, ecologists and social scientists who are able to implement this kind of solutions. And that is where we want to put our efforts in. And the strategic goals for us the coming years for the Building with Nature network is to create an ecosystem and community of cooperating public and private parties, knowledge institutes and NGOs that can deliver nature-based solutions at a landscape scale. To make that possible, we will continue to develop the EcoShape enablers through knowledge development, pilot projects and showcase projects, and we will connect to end users of this kind of solutions worldwide to see where we can implement them. So we are going to build a Building with Nature innovation ecosystem. And if you look that up in a book or on Wikipedia, you will see that an innovation ecosystem is a group of organizations who want to achieve something together, which these organizations cannot achieve by themselves. And of course, we have been such an innovation ecosystem already at EcoShape and in the Building with Nature program, because we worked together as public sector, private sector, NGOs and knowledge institutes in the Dutch Diamond approach. We were sectors collaborating with a shared ambition, who tested and implemented nature-based solutions concepts in practice, supported that with fundamental knowledge development where possible, and we have translated our work into practical design guidelines. And all of that was aimed at upscaling and mainstreaming, and on the lower right-hand side you will see which organizations participated in the earlier phases of the Building with Nature network. Now we want to change the way we work, because we did it all with a quite centralized organizational concept. We had the EcoShape Foundation, which organized the pilots, which reached out to potential end users and partners and made the contracts or arranged the finance, and then the partners of EcoShape were going to carry out these pilots. Now we want to work more as a network, as a business ecosystem, where the role of the EcoShape Foundation is limited to facilitating, orchestrating and organizing. And we will start by organizing a strategic community, and we would like to invite you to become all a member of our community. I will come back to that later. And start engaging with us on what needs to be done to develop these enablers. And if you see potential, if you see interesting topics to be investigated, if you see opportunities for pilots or projects or knowledge programs, then start sub-communities, which we call tables. These are smaller communities of organizations working together to reach a specific goal, or to investigate a certain topic, or to start a knowledge program. And if they have found something really concrete to work on, they will organize a track to achieve that objective. That can be, for instance, if you see an opportunity for to get a project somewhere in the world, a Building with Nature project, organize yourself in a consortium and start reaching out to potential clients or partners to do this project. This we will all do more or less together, facilitated by the EcoShape Foundation, but in the future, actual pilots, projects and programs will be carried out no longer under the umbrella under EcoShape, unless the specific setting, institutional setting for instance, demands that, then it is possible to use the EcoShape Foundation for that. But principally, pilots, projects and programs will be carried out by consortia of participants in the Building with Nature ecosystem on the conditions that they agreed upon with the end users, partners or clients. Some characteristics of how we see the future is that we will still do pilots, programs and projects like before. Project-related activities, however, will be paid for by projects, so like supervision, compliance with subsidy regulations, for instance, administration, communication. That's different from the past, where part of that was paid for by the EcoShape Foundation. So each project now should include these activities in its proposition. The conditions upon which we work together will be determined per project in consultation with partners and or clients. There will be a central budget for framework activities. That's a lingo from the earlier EcoShape programs, but it means that we will have a budget for communication, outreach, advocacy, to create guidelines, to participate in events and for ambassadorships, for instance. And there is also a central budget for leadership to get this system going, for coordination and ambassadorship, for guidance. And we will put more effort in the community around the EcoShape Foundation. Tables and tracks, these are the sub-communities aimed at researching a certain topic or addressing a challenge or chasing an opportunity. We will start at the most advanced of these at the moment are accelerating adaptation in Asia through Building with Nature, beneficial use of dredged sediments and Building with Nature in Africa, and you will hear more about them later in the program. We will continue to produce guidelines, so we will, at EcoShape Central, we will continue to reach out to people and to the projects and to make sure that their projects will contribute to the guidelines that we already prepared and which you can find on our website, so that knowledge gained will be captured and can be used for application and scaling up. We will continue with communication and dissemination, so we will produce newsletter, we will contribute to curricula at universities, for instance. We will reach out through social media, contribute to events worldwide. We will support internships and master studies. We will perform the role of ambassadors, and we will network. We will put efforts into networking to create opportunities for members of the EcoShape system, of the EcoShape innovation system. And then, last but not least, we will invest in a community. Now, the community can be anybody, so we have always said we would like to connect to individuals with ambition or interest in building with nature or nature-based solutions in the water sector. And so these people make up the community. And we are restarting this community because we need a mechanism for dissemination, but also to get information on what is being seen as barriers for the implementation of Building with Nature worldwide. What are research questions that we need to address? Where are opportunities for Building with Nature projects? And we would like to find this information through engagement with our community. And we will support this community by a LinkedIn group to start with. This LinkedIn group already exists. So we already have an EcoShape Building with Nature group with over 800 participants. It used to be quite active. I must say it's a little bit quiet now, but we will restart it, and we will also put effort from EcoShape Central to get engagement and discussions going. So we would like to invite any one of you to share or to become a member of this group. and start engaging on the topics that you find of interest. Well, if you want to participate in the future of EcoShape, you can start with submitting your contact details at info@ecoshape.nl, and we will put you on the list for communication and newsletters. Become a member of our community, sign up for the group on LinkedIn, engage in discussions, brainstorms and information exchange. If you get inspired, form sub-communities, consortia with people that you meet, start or join tables. The community membership is free. However, participation in tables and tracks, which is usually by organizations, requires a membership fee. And if you are interested to know more about that, you can contact us to my approach me directly or submit a request for information at the info mailbox. Well, some ideas for future development: building with nature in cities, use of open source data in building with nature. It's an idea which arose when we had a discussion with EcoShape. We can make a joint effort about that. Innovative finance, reaching out to the global south, because there are a lot of interesting things going on, and we should connect to especially Bangladesh, I guess, because they are very ambitious and they have great ideas about the application of nature-based solutions in building with nature. Building with nature in times of climate change, our ecosystems are changing. What does it mean for our solutions? Mainstreaming building with nature in Netherlands, etc., etc. There are plenty of opportunities to build upon. And that is where I want to stop my presentation here. So I received some information through chat, but no questions yet, I see. Anybody has a question for the moment? At the moment?
Yes.
Please.
This is Judith Klosterman. I'm curious. I do not really see trainings or courses or something like that on the list. And I think one of the things with in Corona times is that there is a lot of interest for it.
Yes.
Are there any ideas about that?
Now, there are, of course, as individuals from the network, we contribute to courses of others. So, for instance, we contribute to the Building with Nature curricula at TU Twente, the Rijksuniversiteit Groningen, and in Delft. And also, we were invited by Columbia University to contribute to their curriculum on resilience. We don't, at the moment yet, envision any initiatives by our own, but of course, we can start a table taking a look at that, because if you want to really develop something, we will need to invest in that, and we will need to find people who are willing to do that. There is a MOOC at TU Delft. You can access it through edx.org. It's called Building with Nature. It's being refreshed every year, and it's open for everybody to join. But I would say, if you are interested in developing something, please send us a mail, and we can reach out to people and see if we can organize something. So I already see in the chat that your question is liked by some people, and they feel ambition to start a new track. There's also a question about, is it possible for non-Dutch organizations to actively participate in EcoShape? Yes, in principle it is. If an organization would like to join as a formal partner of EcoShape, they can submit a request. And well, every request is subject to the approval of the supervisory board. We put in that break because we would like to build an ecosystem with parties which bring added value. And so yeah, at a certain moment, I can imagine if the 100 large worldwide operating consultant is trying to enter, it will become of less added value. But in principle, it's open for everybody. Yeah, there is a question about which topics are being addressed in the current tables. Well, that will be answered in the coming half hour when we have 3 presentations on tables. And I think that, well, the time is there yeah, to invite the first speaker then. That is a nice bridge, because I don't see any more questions at the moment. Okay, so I would like to give the floor to Focko. He will tell us about what's going on in Asia.
Thanks a lot, Henk. Can you see my screen?
Yes, I can.
Right. So welcome everybody also to this presentation. Great to see the great number of people participating in this session. My name is Focko van der Goot. I am an environmental manager at Boskalis. And since 2016, I'm involved as program manager at EcoShape. And I'm currently also leading this table, Building with Nature Asia table, on behalf of EcoShape. See if I can move to the next slide. So this, oh, this one too quick. So this actually this table started off in 2014 and 2015. Our adventure, Building with Nature adventure in Asia, with a pilot in the muck along the north coast of Java. And this area was heavily degraded as a result of mangrove belt removal, coastal erosion, and land subsidence. And by applying a series of Building with Nature measures and the Building with Nature approach, we applied technical and socio-economic measures in the region in order to revitalize the system there. And we did this with a large consortium of organizations from different sectors. So together with Wetlands International and the Indonesian Ministries of Marine Affairs and Fisheries and Public Works, we started this intersectoral collaboration with knowledge partners, local universities, NGOs, engineering consultants, and most importantly, the local communities. And through this learning by doing process, and despite the many challenges we faced, especially the very hard, difficult physical conditions, we have learned valuable lessons on all the 6 enablers that were already mentioned by Henk, that are required for successful implementation of Building with Nature. And this experience has inspired our governmental partners in Indonesia to replicate the measures we have tested in the muck over 13 locations across Indonesia. And not only in Indonesia, this project was under attention. I think across Asia, we had a lot of attention, and the experience attracted attention from several countries in the region. And that inspired us again in 2019 to invite 5 countries in the region: Malaysia, Philippines, Indonesia, of course, and China and India, to the Netherlands, to discuss during a workshop how we can use Building with Nature in the region to accelerate climate adaptation. And together with these countries, with Wetlands International, with One Architecture, and with GCA, we presented our ambitions at the New York Climate Adaptation Summit in 2019. And this ambition was to implement Building with Nature at scale at the various countries in different landscapes. So not only in degraded mangrove coasts, but also in sandy environments, ports environments, in urban environments. And we want to do this by initiating landscape proposition off the ground, as well as developing a regional community of practice or a regional platform, very similar to what EcoShape has been for the Netherlands. And with this platform, with this community of practice, we want to share knowledge, we want to build capacity, we want to create an enabling institutional environment and a financial environment. So these countries can apply building with nature at landscape level to tackle the challenges they are facing. So this regional platform or community of practice should link the various countries and use the enablers that we have identified as EcoShape as the key aspects for upscaling and mainstreaming building with nature as the fundament of sharing knowledge. So not only the technical aspects, not only the system understanding, but also working on policies, creating an institutional environment, and engaging with financial institutions to mobilize the green infrastructure finance and the nature-based solutions finance that are available in many of these multilateral organizations, to mobilize it, to apply it in pilots, and to show that it works and that it can be upskilled at the landscape level. A key aspect of this process is the development of the landscape propositions, very similar to what EcoShape has done always, is to build up from the ground, to show that it works in the field. We want to select a number of locations, a number of sites that require urgent interventions because of this changing environment, and propose innovative solutions for these sites. So apply the concepts that we have selected, that we have identified as EcoShape from our project portfolio, and show how these concepts would function in these environments, what added value they can bring. And currently we have a set of over 15 sites identified in these countries, and we are in the process, together with Wetlands International, with the regional offices, with the stakeholders in these countries, and with One Architecture, we are developing inspiring landscape propositions that could function as to start a dialogue of how these projects and how these solutions could function. So at the moment we are in the process of developing an action plan for this idea, for this initiative. So together with Wetlands International, with the ministries in Indonesia, with One Architecture, we are in the process of developing this action plan. The aim is that this action plan is ready in the course of 2021 for this year, and that should help us to mobilize resources and step into the second phase, which is fundraising efforts, design process of these selected landscapes, and detailed policy analysis for creating an enabling environment in these countries. So that will be the next step in the process along the course of this year. So besides the Building with Nature platform as a track, we have several other activities ongoing, which have their own dynamics. So they have not been covered on the platform yet. One of them is the Mekong Delta, where we are engaging with WWF in a feasibility study for sustainable agriculture and rice production in a few selected sites in Mekong Delta. And the aim is to do an integrated approach by integrating natural processes into these agriculture systems to also to revitalize these degraded systems. And this feasibility study is currently being executed by Deltares in Vietnam. And last but not least, we are active with in Singapore together with the Center for Livable Cities. Also, this relationship is ongoing already for a couple of years, and together with the center and with some of the implementing parties, governmental parties, we are exploring building with nature and also the governance of EcoShape, how that has functioned in the Netherlands, whether that can be used as a platform in Singapore for applying building with nature for climate adaptation developments. So where are we at with the table? Like I said, each of these tracks have their own individual dynamics at the moment, so they are being followed up individually. The aim is to have an action plan for the Building with Nature platform ready along the course of this year. We bring the landscape propositions to a next level. we are searching and seeking regional partners for knowledge sharing, capacity building, and finance and engineering knowledge sharing. And also, we want to align as much as possible with other nature-based solutions initiatives in the region. So this was what I wanted to share for the Building with Nature Asia track. I believe after the 3 presentations, there will be room for questions, if I understood it correctly. Yeah. So over to the next one.
Yes, you're right. We will have questions after the 3 presentations, but you can always put questions in the chat, of course. I will now give the floor to Caroline Wegman of AKV. Caroline, please.
Yes, thank you, Henk. Welcome, everybody. I think you can see my screen now, Henk?
Yes.
My slide? Okay,
Yes.
great. So good morning, everyone. I'm Caroline Wegman. I work at HKV, which mostly is a company that focuses mostly on flood safety. And I am running the WACA table, which I will tell more about today. Just as an introduction, this WACA table is quite at an early stage. So if you listen to Foco's presentation just now and afterwards of Luca, they're a bit further in the process, but to say it, to put it positively, this has a nice, enables you to add value to this table if you see added value for yourself. So what is the WACA table? So this whole WACA program, you probably have seen it before. It is a relatively new program for West Africa on coastal resilience and adaptation for West African countries. And here in the colors, you see the countries that are currently, projects are currently run in these countries. So it is the West Africa Coastal Areas Management Program. That's what it stands for. And it supports the strengthening of resilience of coastal communities and assets in African countries, particularly vulnerable to erosion, flooding, and pollution. So this is managed by the World Bank, but they're in close contact with many participant stakeholders and organizations in West Africa. And you just saw the countries that they're currently active in, and there's a list here below here as well, but it is expanding. So how this table started is that we saw that there are quite some big tenders coming out of this WACA program. And with a few well, people I know from EcoShape, we sat together and said, okay, is there availability for nature-based solutions? Because it's a big part of WACA, nature-based solutions. They want to build this coastal resilience using nature-based solutions or building with nature, whatever you like to call it. And is there opportunity for us there? And almost at the same time, we saw that the Netherlands Water Partnership, so the NWP, reached out, had contact with EcoShape and said, okay, WACA has asked us to be a knowledge partner, or the Netherlands to be a knowledge partner on nature-based solutions, because we're quite advanced in these nature-based solutions and we have quite a lot of knowledge and pilots and projects, of course. So WACA asked NWP, okay, can you help us create a knowledge hub on nature-based solutions? And well, NWP, of course, was very willing to do so and signed a memorandum of understanding with WACA. Well, then NWP and EcoShape were in contact because EcoShape, of course, has its own, well, a lot of knowledge and pilots and projects on nature-based solutions. So how can we EcoShape is used in this WACA program and can enable also the Dutch water sector, of course, to add to this WACA program for coastal resilience in West Africa. So that's a bit of the initiation. So how this table came about. So the status now, because I think it's, well, we're busy with it now for almost half a year, I would say. We have had several conversations directly with WACA, with how we can add value to that, IUCN, NWP, and also recently with the University of Cape Coast. And the University of Cape Coast is special in this regard, which is the university in Ghana, because it's the Africa Center of Excellence in Coastal Resilience. and of course, well, issues or things that would need added value on nature-based solutions and how to do that for West Africa. So they're listed here on this table. And we're very much still in having this conversation with these organizations where we can add value, where we can strengthen each other and what we can do. So that is what up to now this table is. So we have conversations, but see where we can strengthen each other. We further develop ideas. We are directly at the table together with WACA and University of Cape Coast to have discussions about where we can add and strengthen each other and what we can do. So of course there are a few ideas about that. You can see them here, but there are many more. So maybe extend the MOOC, the present massive open online course, maybe with African cases, translate to French. They have some issues with online training. Can we add nature-based solutions curriculum to that? To make an West Africa knowledge agenda on building with nature. So what are the enablers and also what are the things that hold back nature-based solutions in West Africa? And of course, we will try and support building with nature in West Africa with pilots and projects and see how we can do that. And next to that, that's the second sort of bullet. Of course, we're still talking also with NWP and WACA together to see how we can EcoShape play in this knowledge hub on nature-based solutions that NWP is providing for WACA. So these are the current ideas. As you can see, of course, there's a question mark. So I think we're not at all have a straight line yet to the finish line. There are many more things we can do and what we can think of. All to, of course, aim for that ambition to mainstream nature-based solutions in West Africa as well for coastal resilience. If you feel like this is something I could add to, that we have something to bring, I have ideas about this, please then contact me and we can have a discussion and see if and how we can join this table in well, mainstreaming nature-based solutions in West Africa and then specifically for WACA. Well, that was it, I think. Thank you very much. And looking forward if you have questions to answer them after Luca's presentation.
Okay, thank you very much, Caroline, for a nice presentation. Next presentation will be Luca Citoni. He was a program manager at the previous program, and he is now heading the table beneficial use of fine sediments. Luca, the floor is yours.
Yeah, thank you, Hank. I imagine you can hear and you can see me. So thank you and welcome everybody indeed. My name is Luca Citoni. I'm a program manager at Deltares and also since the last 4 years at EcoShape as well, same as FOCO a little bit. Maybe relevant for this presentation, I'm also actively involved in a couple of working groups with the Central Dredging Organization and PIANC on beneficial sediment use. And so I offered to lead together with Natalie, which I will introduce later, the table on beneficial sediment use of EcoShape. And before we go into the detail of the table, I'd like to take this opportunity to give a bit of background on a relevant sediment or beneficial sediment use. I figure we give some inspiration to further join the community and to increase on this important topic. So here now on the screen you see what I would call more or less LP ecosystem. You see rivers, you see a coast with sand, you see a mangrove coast with a mangrove coast, and you see this is Wax Lake Delta in Louisiana. You see let's say LP Delta. Then the other thing that I want to point out is that more or less every time you see water, we have sediment and nutrients with that. Most people think about water as water, but there's a lot more in water that's been transported. You see in this very brown river. What happened is that we as humans build and do our development activities in the natural system, and somehow we disturb the natural equilibrium. We build dikes because we have to defend ourselves, and then all the sediment will go to the center. We build harbor, and then we have sedimentation. We build dams, and you have sedimentation after the behind the dam. We build aquaculture, and then we have we disturb the natural equilibrium of the coastline. And I think it's okay. I'm not saying that we shouldn't do that, but we should be aware of that, and we should learn how to possibly take advantage of the natural system and make sure that we manage the natural environment and our activities together. That's a bit the challenge here. How can we live with nature and in nature in a sustainable way? And that's the definition of the beneficial sediment use that we developed with SEDA and PIANC. And indeed, it is the use of dredge and natural system conditions that are beneficial and in harmony to human natural development. So let's use it instead of throw it away or not use it unused anymore. So sediment is a very, very important natural resource of the world. And just to give you a whole of what we do, we are doing with EcoShape. We do with many partners. It's one of our most famous projects at the moment. Let's say this is the Eemsdolder estuary. This is the Netherlands, Germany. For people who are not familiar with the area, there's a harbor of Delfzijl here, and we have a problem of high turbidity in the Eem. So there's too much sediment, and there's a problem with the water quality. We zoom in the port. We have also a lot of sedimentation because there's a lot of sediment. A lot of sedimentation comes in the port, and to guarantee navigability, we need to dredge, as in most ports of the world. At the same time, we can try. We are learning how can we use this excess of salty dredge sediment, let it ripen, using as much as possible natural processes, and then use it to build a higher and broader dike, which is more resistant to climate change, so sea level rise, and better engaged or better connected to the floodplain in front of the dike. So you see already how you can turn something that's a problem into an opportunity while connecting and understanding natural processes and using them. So then just the link of the importance of beneficial use with international ambitions that we hear more and more lately, and we'd like to align with. So first of all, and most important for this presentation, sediment is more or less the foundation of more or less all the nature-based solutions we are working on. Think about salt marsh, think about mangrove restoration, think about project I just showed. So it's really the foundation and a critical ingredient. It's intrinsically circular. Circularity is very important lately, and the project I just showed you see that we use a resource, we reuse it from what we don't want it to where we need it. It's indeed a source of sustainable development, as I mentioned, of our activity in nature in a sustainable way, and connected to that, it's an ingredient for climate adaptation, biodiversity. Again, which I just showed. It seems a key ingredient in greenhouse gases cycle. There's a lot of interest now in adaptation and greenhouse gas reduction. We focus a lot on material. So how can we electrify our material, our dredging material, our cars? But we see that a lot of greenhouse gases is probably emitted or trapped in sediment, which has a high amount of organic content in the case of fine sediment. So that's probably a very important topic that's coming up. And then away from the technical, but more on the governance, you connect stakeholders. The example I showed, there's a port who's working with the water authority to connect demand and offer, and therefore it stimulates innovative private part, a business model and financial model. So how can we make this also financially feasible? Because in order to make it sustainable, we also make it financially sustainable, not only environmental. About bringing forward, that's obviously where we are today, but the call is for everybody to participate. So these may change. Is to focus on sediment then, so sand and mud, but also with link to ecobiology, so ecology and biota who live in sediment and water, obviously, because as I mentioned in the first slide, those are all come together. They're not distinguishable. And then more on the which kind of topics, the dike strengthening, alignment, similar to the projects I mentioned, counteracted subsidence. There's a lot of lands in the Netherlands, but also in the world subsiding behind the dike. How can we counteract that reusing sediment? Salt marsh and wetland developer restoration, for example, in front of the dike, or a natural wetland. Navigation infrastructure and maintenance. So how can we optimize dredging and relocation or bring it outside the water for beneficial uses? And then the big question mark of greenhouse gases, what's their role, and nitrogen as well. What's their role on sediment in emission or sequestration opportunity for climate adaptation? Also more in detail, as Paco mentioned in that table, this is a table that it's actually starting, but it's continuing many of the initiatives we have at the moment, and we'll try to add one and change it by having more of you joining with your ideas. I won't go into all the details, but we have 5 ongoing projects to which EcoShape is actively contributing or a partner in research projects on topics that I mentioned. We are waiting to hear about on a couple of proposals, for example, European Green Deal project, or NVO, which is a research project in the Netherlands, and we are setting up. We are in discussion with stakeholders to setting up more projects. And we also know that many of our partners, or possibly new partners, have also many other projects on this topic. So we wish to hear from you if there's a chance or there's a user to bring them in the table, in this table. So this is a bit the background and where we are today. Maybe the future, I'd like to introduce Natalie. If Natalie could come in, and then she will tell us from what the plans for from today and how to go forward.
Yes, thank you. So hi everyone, my name is Natalie Strookman and I'm an environmental engineer at Van Oort. I just joined Van Oort after working for an NGO for the past 7 years on offshore wind, and together with Luca I will organize this EcoShape table. Can you put the next slide on, Luca?
Yes.
Thank you. So looking at the future of this table, we have a very clear ambition, and we want to favor mainstreaming and maximize the use of sediment so that 100% will be reused. And given the big societal challenges in our world, the following action will contribute to this mission. So the first is not to only work on the technical solutions, but also on implementation and the enablers. So we see that most barriers are evolved around these enablers. So it's usually things like costs, connection between supply and demand, legal aspects such as contamination and stakeholder perception that currently prevent the mainstreaming of beneficial use of sediment and the implementation. So technology is not the biggest problem. To the right, you see many publications, so already focusing on technology guidelines many years ago. And you see that the most recent publications are about implementation. So this table will not only focus in addressing technology, but also on the barriers for implementation. And other action that will contribute to our missions are linking the beneficial use of sediments to other big challenges in this world, such as the greenhouse gas emissions, biodiversity, and circularity, as Luca explained earlier. And we will also connect and create specific large programs and not only focus on the Netherlands, but also more internationally. And last, we will also aim at influencing legislation and tenders, so to incorporate the beneficial use of sediments and to make this the new standard. So next slide, please. If you are enthusiastic and think you can be of added value, please contact Luca or myself. Thank you.
Thank you, Natalie. Back to Henk, I think.
Yes, back to Henk.
I was scrambling for the unmute button. Okay, thank you very much for these presentations. And the objective of our presentation was to show you what the concept of a table is. So it's basically a sub-community of organizations working together on a certain topic, identifying challenges, opportunities, etc., and then working together to investigate these topics, or to overcome these challenges, or to make use of opportunities which present themselves. It's now time for Q&A. We have received a few questions in the chat, so I would propose to start with that. And I noticed that in the beginning there was some confusion about whether the table beneficial use of sediments also included sand, but during the presentation it became clear that it did. But what can you elaborate a little bit on the ambitions with regard to sand of this table?
Yeah, sand. So it's true. It's a bit of things change a little bit. So EcoShape, the beginning focused mainly on sand. Think about the sand motor. Then lately we focused more on mud. But actually, both sand and mud are important sediment resources, and sand is specifically important also for the circularity problem and the scarcity of sand that we have in many places of the world. So sand. We know a bit more about the technical properties of sand, so we focus a bit more on mud. But really, I think we should cover both items certainly.
Okay, thank you. There was also a suggestion to look at the north coast of South America. Well, we have been looking at some developments in Suriname, but of course we can take this as a good advice. And there was also a question about it's still unclear how are we going to finance these activities, and what are the opportunities for that? And I don't know if
and I think that's
one of the table managers would like to answer that. I may add something to that also. But would you like to start, Luca?
Yeah, I think it's a question for you, Henk. No, I was going to say I think it's a question for you mainly.
Yes.
I would also explain it a little bit from the Asian table. It's a very good question, because this is also something we want to explore during the course of this year, how that will work. With regards to the Asian table, each of these individual tracks, except for the Singapore track, have their own initiation budget, so to speak, to work on a plan or a feasibility study. However, these are small-scale financing for a specific track, so it's not financing of a particular table. But these financing can be used to explore how large-scale financing can be attracted to also set up an overarching framework or table for to align these topics and align these tracks at a table or a platform, so to speak. So for Asia, we have some budget for these particular tracks to explore these opportunities.
Yes, and maybe to add to that for the WACA table, before Henk, you go into general on this question. Currently, we don't have a budget for that. The thing is, of course, the WACA has a budget, but it can, of course, not. The World Bank cannot hand over without tendering large amounts of money. So we have to look into that still. So that's a very much a question for the WACA table, how to fund our activities. And that's also why you should really believe, I think, in the WACA table to be able to join, because it's not funded currently.
And then a more general answer would be, yeah, we have of course experience of 6 years with the mechanism, which was basically not very different than what we are going to do now. The only thing is we are trying to scale it up, which is that we bring together a few parties which are interested into a certain topic, would like to have it investigated or realized, and together look for finance. And that is basically the mechanism that we have been using to build all these pilots in the previous program. So if you look at EcoShape between 2014 and 2020, we had a program with a turnover of approximately 45 million euro. And that was all, that was a little bit of money which was funded from the center, but most of it came from the combination of all kinds of funding opportunities that we discovered while working together in tables with clients. And that is the mechanism that we would like to scale it up. And in one of the white papers that we prepared, there are some considerations. It is described how we financed our previous activities, and which can serve as an opportunity for future, to look for future financing sources. Is that enough answer? Well, of course not, but this is the answer I can give at the moment. Another question was, yeah, is the sediment table a table across the other tables? Transfer table? Well, I would say no. Of course, there are a lot of linkages, but some of the tables are more regionally oriented, other are more subject oriented. So, yeah, if you would like to draw an organization scheme, then of course you might say that they are interlinked, but we are not that formal. So we are basically looking to pursue opportunities from various angles, and yeah, where they will meet each other, we will have to manage that.
Yeah, if I can add to that, Henk.
Of course.
I think you said no at the beginning, and you give the explanation. I think a yes could have the same explanation. And indeed, in general, what are the boundaries of each table is a bit we have to see. But certainly, all tables leader are talking to each other very often and try to leverage on specifically on these connection points to make sure that we build on that instead of the other way around. So, yeah.
Okay, thank you. There was also a question, is there a table where links with the financial sector are brought together? Well, not yet. I can answer to that. But we see that from various angles we are being approached by financial parties. Yeah, we may form a table around that, but we still are in very initial discussions to see what they are looking for and if there really is a role for EcoShape in these contexts. But it is a kind of, it is really an ambition among the EcoShape partners to reach out to financial parties. Yeah, there was also a question about an overarching objective defined for the third phase of EcoShape. Well, I tried to include that in my presentation. So basically, it is the ambition is that we want building with nature and nature-based solutions to become the standard for infrastructural solutions in the water sector. And we work together to create the enablers for that. And And so that means that we reach out to potential end users. We want to know what is keeping them from implementing nature-based solutions or building with nature. And then we will try to take away those barriers that they feel by working on the enablers for nature-based solutions. That is the shortest way to put it.
Can I add to that, Henk?
Yes, of course.
I think, and that also applies to the previous comment on this overarching the linkage between tables. I think it's also up to the community itself to make these links, and to I think that's also the movement we want to make, is to don't look at EcoShape all the time to make these links. It's up to the community, if they feel the need to share this knowledge, that the community is doing this. So sharing knowledge between tables, or setting up your own table with like-minded people from the community, it's great, and we really support that, and we can also help you setting up these tables. But it's also a call to you to take this initiative if you feel like this that is necessary.
Yeah, Erik van Ekelen, I see your raised hand. Would you like to ask something?
Yeah, no, I was also wanting to adding on to that. I think that instead of, say, looking for a table to address financing issues, I would say that every of the tables should include, as part of the initiative, making the connection with the financing world, because the situation in West Africa is much different and has a much other driver than the situation that we are investigating in the Asia context, or the beneficial use along with itself brings along. So I think it's basically, it would be good, and I think that's sort of the enablers approach. Say, on a table we get concrete ideas of what we want to achieve, how we want to achieve it, and maybe where we want to achieve it. And that will define sort of the way to prolong with finance. So I think that on every table there will be prolonged discussions on how to make the business case and how to arrange the finance. So I would not do it in a sort of a central table. I don't think that we can crack the code in which all over the world, in all types of different forms, the financing of MBS can be resolved. But I do think that, say, as part of every table, we can demonstrate how we can resolve the financing issue for that particular topic.
Thanks, Erik. There was also an interesting question from Jan Broek. How much of the finance problems are actually related to perception and mainstreaming? If we tackle perceptions, then finance will surely follow. Well, I agree with that. Actually, in the white paper that we wrote on uncertainty, how to deal with uncertainty, which you can download from our site, there's also a chapter on ambiguity. So it means people from various sectors, they look differently at nature-based solutions, and that's also one of the things preventing the application of that. So we need to get aligned, and that's also why I have said over the last year, I've been in many webinars internationally also. Yeah, many people are constantly coming up with objections against nature-based solutions, but I say, if you don't just try it. You don't have to go for the full application, but just do as we did in the Netherlands. Make a small pilot, build it, you can see what happens, you can go there and you can measure what happens. And you can familiarize yourself with the concept. And I think it's very true that there is still a gap to bridge where it comes to perceptions and understanding of this kind of solutions. Well, there are many questions. Yeah, there's also a question on will there be a specific focus on supporting nature-based solutions in the EU adaptation strategy? Well, not yet, but if anybody has a good idea, we may do that. Okay. Question, yeah, would we like to go more into river areas than the previous one? Well, we want to stimulate opportunities for nature-based solutions, building with nature in the water sector. So rivers is included, but it really depends on the ambitions of the partners whether we are going to pursue this. So we will have to see what happens. And that's a famous line from the previous American president. Are we familiar with any comparable initiatives on business ecosystems approach? Yes, there are many experiences, and we can also learn from that. You may have noticed that the address of EcoShape has changed starting on the 1st of March. We have now rented a small part of the office of Deal, which is the marketing organization of the Drechtsteden region. But they have one of the reasons to do that is that they have hired a specialist on building business ecosystems, and his task is, for which he has 32 hours per week available, is to build a business ecosystem on Delta technology, which is of course very close to what we are doing. And this man has previous experience at TNO in building this kind of business ecosystem. So we will closely work together with him, and we hope to learn a lot from him. Yeah, there are some suggestions and also information in the chat I see here. So I think I have now handled all questions that there were in the chat. We also
Henk, maybe there was one question that came back 2 times. If the fine sediments table also has new projects on reuse of fine sediments to prevent erosion of EVA. I saw it coming back twice.
Okay, yeah. Well, but Luca posted an answer to that in the chats. But would you like to expand on that, Luca?
And not really, unless Eva has additional questions, but we could do it offline. And I'm happy to have a chat about that.
Okay. Well, thank you. Are there any more questions? Anybody who would like to speak up maybe, or? No? Then yeah, we also reached the end of the time we scheduled for this webinar. So of course, if you would like to go your own way, you are feel free to do that and enjoy the rest of the day, which is in the Netherlands will become a very nice day. Well, where it concerns the weather, and I hope also every other aspect. Yeah, if you would like to stay on a little bit more, we would like to do a small experiment. There was a question of someone who said, yeah, okay, we haven't seen all these people for a long time. It would be great to have a chat, an opportunity to chat up. Well, what we thought of is we will now assign you randomized to breakout rooms if you would like to stay. And then, yeah, you can have a chat with whoever shows up there. I will make sure that there will be an EcoShaper in each of these breakout rooms. And they can maybe start a conversation or answer any questions. And I propose that we take another 10 minutes or 15 minutes for that, if you like. And well, please give me a few minutes to set up these breakout rooms, and in the meantime you may get a coffee or grab a glass of water or something else. And as a close, we will not go back to the plenary session. So this will be the end of the plenary part. I would like to thank you all for participating. Well, the attendance was overwhelming, so overwhelming that we reached the maximum of our capacity, which is of course a pity. And I apologize to anybody who couldn't join, who is present now, and we will also make sure that we will apologize to anybody else who wasn't able to join. We recorded the session, but we had a small problem at the beginning, so we lost part of the beginning. But anyway, most of the session was recorded, and we will make available the link to that, so you can look it up later or share it with others. So thank you very much, and I hope to meet you in the future and share some success with you in the promotion of building with nature worldwide. I will now go and set up the breakout rooms. Goodbye.
Hub platform, basically Dutch organizations that are working on resilience in urban, coastal, and rural regions. Hello, Henk.
Yes, good morning.
Excellent.
Nice to meet you all.
Excellent. Very good discussion, and I think a lot of ideas for everyone.
Yes, true. But may I ask you, what is your overall impression?
I think, for myself, I think it is really like a turning point a little bit for this, more oriented on the scale-ups, right? On using all the lessons learned from the last years. So I think it's fantastic. I am thinking a little bit about Latin America, because I also have the Latin American group at MVP. But yes, I think for Asia, definitely a turning point. I don't know, Andrea, if you were also thinking a little bit.
Yeah, I'm working, so on my side, I'm working for Lafarge-Rosim. I don't know if you know this organization, so we're mainly in building materials industry. And I'm working on Europe market mainly, and I clearly see that, your initiative in Netherlands, it's very, let's say, it's a trendsetter for other countries in Europe. And today it's still, though we are yeah, I think that your idea to work on enables and barriers and to have a better awareness of mainly of the advantages for this is key, because what I can see today in different water or coastal organizations, they want to go forward, but they have it's a perception issue, in fact, and they have difficulties to go at a large scale, and mainly to know the impact for different things. If we are talking biodiversity and so on, so what is the impact and how we can measure all these initiatives, in fact, on their perspective.
Yes, I agree with that. Yeah, there is a lot of still perception to be overcome. So nature-based solutions are less reliable, it's said. We don't know how they will behave. And also what I also encounter in Africa is that people say, yeah, but nature-based solutions don't contribute to development. We need development. So I don't agree with that. It's what we did in Indonesia contributed directly to the development of the agricultural, the aquacultural practices in the area, and increased income of local smallholders. So the nature-based solution there directly improved the local economy. So we need to work on that.
Really, just to finish, because I'm taking opportunity, I have the floor. So I haven't seen, in fact, in the different subjects on the tables that you want to go on, a subject of biodiversity. And have you already thinking to tackle it, or marine biodiversity? I'm talking about that. Do you, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, well, the reason that we promote building with nature and nature-based solutions is that we think that if they become mainstream, we will contribute to biodiversity. And so we will contribute to healthier ecosystems which are able to support biodiversity. And biodiversity as such is not a research topic. Of course, in the nature-based solutions that we realized, we researched what happens to the local ecosystems. So, and we can derive conclusions about that. We can derive conclusions from that on biodiversity locally, but it's not a specific research topic or singled out research topic in the program. Yeah.
I think that should be necessary to move this forward as being one of the potential new enablers to make a good balance between comparing nature-based solutions compared to more traditional type of solutions. I think biodiversity might be one of the additional factors to show that added value.
Yes, of course, but that was the point of the first thing I said is building with nature-based solutions by design contributes to biodiversity. So in every pilot that we did, we investigated what happened to the local ecosystem. So we have data on that, etc. But there is no overarching research team biodiversity. That's what I wanted to say.
Yeah, I understand, but I think it might be interesting to see how we can combine all those lessons learned from all different types of projects and the more fine sediment type and also the green types, in order to have some more support to show added value in a more general sense. But I'm also thinking about the how. I think we agree that we should do it.
It's a good suggestion, and we will of course we will speak about it later, undoubtedly.
Yeah, indeed. The same yields also for the economic parts, of course. So it's combining all the lessons learned from different disciplines, because one of the things I see in international context is that people are a bit holding back when talking about nature-based solutions, because it uses in general sense more space. So a space is expensive. So how to deal with that? A small skilled concrete wall allows you to have, for example, for reclamation type works, you get more ground to work on. So we have to have a good story why the use of a bit more space provides additional value, economic value as well.
That's true.
I think it's a nice challenge, and we can do it by talking about it.
Yeah,
having a good story.
Yeah, I think you mentioned something key, like communications, right? Like we have research on biodiversity, or do we have some knowledge about the impact on biodiversity, and also the case against like using some space, but using it as an investment, because if you see the coastal overall impact, like the benefits are much wider if we just think like this end motor, right? Like we take such a big part of land, but then the benefits along the coast are bigger. But I think, yeah, the being able to tell this story with all the data that you already have, that's really, really key. One thing that also popped out a little bit on my head after this discussion is, I think, on mainstreaming it, right? Of bringing those scale ups. You do need maybe more pilots in more different regions, but also bringing along those, like the local bigger developers, the construction companies, the engineers. Of course, that's my bell ringing. But to mainstream it, maybe bring more international partners that are actually implementing, your day-to-day engineering projects, having them a little bit buy into the process, or see the pilots. I think that's a really key part.
Yes, I completely agree. So you cannot send a message from the Netherlands that we know it all, and if you ask us, we will solve all your problems. Because basically that wouldn't be true. And we can add to the local problem-solving capacities, and that should be our role. So, for instance, our largest international pilot in Indonesia, we work together with local NGOs to be able to communicate with local communities, with local contractors, and also we initiated Train the Trainers program with local universities. So there was a program where we trained dozens of trainers from 4 Indonesian universities in the concept of building with nature, so that they can teach the concept to their students and they can pick it up locally. So I only, from the Dutch water sector, our role can only be to add something which is already there, and not to replace it or to neglect it.
Yes. Also, I think because building with nature really comes from looking at the local context, right, and empowering what nature is doing, yes, and strengthening it.
True, I agree. Can I ask Dr. Imbakan, you are in the meeting, would you like to add something to it? Okay, well, not necessary.
Maybe to add something from my side, what I really like about the initiative of building with nature-based solutions in a more general sense, is the philosophy behind it, not necessarily the solutions itself. And what I see happening right now in many also projects and tenders is that people are looking for the nature-based solutions as being the solution, and also sometimes requesting nature-based solutions as the solution. I'm not in favor of that approach, I would say. So I think it's also up to us to emphasize that it is all about the philosophy behind it. And in my opinion, it is the system approach, understanding your natural economic system in a broad sense, in order to find the best possible solutions which fits that natural environment. And it can be a traditional solution as well, but it can also be a more innovative green solution. And, well, I see it as a bit of a goal to try to emphasize that part of the story rather than try to sell a green or a sediment type of solution. I'm wondering what your opinion is about that.
No, that's very important, and I completely agree with you, because I also have been in many meetings, especially where dominated by NGOs, where it was stated that the end of traditional infrastructure is here, and now we have nature-based solutions. But that is not how it is going to work, because it cannot work like that. I mean, we will always see, probably we will see that mostly we need a combination. And I always, refer to the Netherlands as a country. The Netherlands is a kind of bulb-shaped delta. So we have a sandy coast, which has a specific north-south orientation, and then suddenly it becomes an east-west orientation. And the reason that this happens is that there is one island called Texel, which is a hard structure. It is a natural hard structure, but it's built of glacial clay, which hardly doesn't erode. So that is the point on which our whole natural coast revolves. But it's a hard structure in a way. And so that is also how you need to look at nature-based solutions. You can build nature-based solutions, but very often you need some hard point to how to say it, how to suspend them from, or to hinge them from. And also the systems approach, that is really key. And so we have also had discussions where people asked us in the Netherlands, so I'm in charge of the strengthening of this dike, which is 10 kilometers of river dike in the Netherlands. What is a nature-based solution for a dike? But then you have to explain to people that's the wrong question, because the question should be, if you want to work with nature-based solutions, or if you want to, you should take a systems approach, and you should take a look at what is the system here, and how can I tweak the system, as it were, to come to an optimum solution for the flood problem. And that may be a dike, it may also be a realignment, or it may be that you have to create side channels, or that you allow flooding from time to time to happen. That would be the right question.
That also implies that we do need to get a right mindset, also at governmental level, that it takes some time at the beginning of a new stage or a new problem to really dive into that system understanding. And that's also a bit of a shift of mindset sometimes, because a lot of people really would like to start with coming up with a solution, and sometimes forget a bit about it, that it takes time to understand your system. And of course, there are a lot of systems we already know from earlier projects that are, especially in a lot of international cases, we don't know the system yet. And if you don't have the time and the opportunity to study on that one, you cannot come to optimal solutions. So that, I think that's one of the challenges right now. So how to reserve enough time to really understand the system you want to look at. I don't have the solution. It's a challenge, I would say.
Yeah.
The future is endless, so there's always enough time.
Yeah, of course, yeah, but within obviously most of the time we work in projects, so within a project you have to reserve enough time at the beginning of your stage, but it requires a bit of a change of mindset also for the people who are putting the projects in the market, so to say. And I think that's also based on communication. We have to tell this story that you really require that system understanding before proceeding to implementing solutions itself.
But
Question,
definitely.
Robin, if I mind. So you are working in Arcadis, so design office. So you are the one which may propose the solutions found in complementary or anyway to the market. Have you already worked on projects when you propose the system solution with both ones? I mean, nature-based and hard engineering solutions. Or
Yeah, we did. I think in the Netherlands we have some examples where we had the opportunity to study both type of solutions and also do it from a system approach. But also there we can win, of course, and do it more efficient. But I think some nice examples are the large-scale coastal protection works along the Dutch coast in the last 10 years, in which we really try to compare the impact of different types of solutions.
Yeah.
And more recently, I also worked on the Marco Water project, which is in my background, which was another type of project in that sense, but also a project in which you want to understand the system in order to come, in this case, to good solutions in which you can restore your ecosystem. So that was basically the question behind it. So yes, there are examples, but I also noticed that, well, in a lot of projects, people really would like to step quickly towards implementing a specific type of solution, and it takes some time to just change that mindset, I would say.
Okay.
Thank you all for the nice discussion. I have to hop off to another meeting, but it was really wonderful to see you and have this chat. And I think we will talk a little bit more with Henk also in the future about it. Thank you.
Just feel free to approach us with anything you would like to share or ask. Or
Definitely, I think there's a lot of ideas popping up, and I will gather with my team and definitely reach back out to be in discussion. Thank you.
Okay,
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you very much.
thanks.
okay, so yeah, I just sent a message. I will close all rooms in 3 minutes. So I will stay on. Have to stay on for another 3 minutes.
I will hop off as well for my next meeting. Thanks for the nice discussion, and hopefully we can discuss it further in the coming weeks, months.
Okay, thank you for contributing.
Bye, Henk and
Okay.
others. Bye-bye.
Thanks. See you. Bye. Yeah, Hank, I think on our side, so as I told you, so I'm working for a Lafarge team. We are really interesting to see how to participate, and yeah, I'm based in Paris, so we are in let's say reaching the international coverage of related to what you said at the beginning. So we are really interesting to have more exchanges with you and your members for EcoShape, and see what table in other words, to work more actively on this topic. And I have in mind mainly, yes, from the beginning, but potentially a holistic approach of conventional and system-based solution to help the implementation of the market, and go further to nature-based approach completely.
Okay, but can you drop us an email or send your contact details, or maybe probably you already have them.
Yeah, because I'm receiving, in fact, regularly your communications. Okay. Yeah, and we have been in touch, but some time ago with Luca. But now I think it was yes, in your let's say your previous program, when you are focusing mainly on pilots. Now as we are talking about larger scale implementation, I think that yeah, our value added can be even higher.
Okay. Well, thank you.
So thanks to you. So how do you advise to go forward for this?
Yeah. So if I have written down your name, I will look up whom you are working for, and we will reach out again in the coming few weeks.
Okay.
Let's have a chat one-on-one then.
Yeah, exactly. And to explore together. Yes.
Yes.
Possibilities of cooperation. Mhm.
Okay.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, you're welcome. And I have to close the rooms now, I guess. I see that it's
Okay.
interesting.
Anyway. Yeah, nice to meet you, and hopefully, yes, we'll get in touch with yourself and the other members of your organization.
Okay, thanks a lot. Goodbye. Yeah.
Okay, have a nice day. See you. Bye.